What's up, motherfuckers? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Shredlord.
Necrotic Nick.
We are here to bring you yet another excellent album review. This time we have done Paradise Lost, Obsidian. It's their brand new release on Nuclear Blast Records.
Yeah, this is the band's 16th full length. They are one of the godfathers and pioneers of Death Doom, and have incorporated lots of other elements in their sound along the way, including some goth rock. They pretty much came from the same scene as My Dying Bride and Anathema, back when Anathema was playing Death Doom. And one of the coolest things about this band that I found out that I did not know is, outside of the drummer, this band has all of its original members since 1988, which is a remarkable feat.
Incredible.
I mean, there are tons of bands out there that I absolutely adore that have gone through fucking more lineup changes than I can fucking imagine.
The Faceless has gone through 50 fucking lineup changes in like 10 years. Yeah,
Megadeth. Yeah, I mean, tons. 3 years ago, they put out an amazing album with Medusa. If we were doing videos back then, that would have been probably in my top 5 albums of 2017. It was a return to just the nasty, gritty Death Doom, and this was a different album. And it's different for a lot of good reasons, and some that I thought were a little but for the most part, this is a really interesting listen because it almost encompasses their entire career on one album. The first 2 tracks, Darker Thoughts and Fall from Grace, which Fall from Grace was the first single they put out, pretty much encapsulate what they do as like kind of a roundabout thing, like clean vocals, harsh vocals, gothic, doomy atmosphere, giant, sludgy riffs, and a really cool trade-off between clean and growled vocals, which Nick Holmes is fantastic. I mean, we know him from fucking Bloodbath, too, and hopefully I get to see him next year at MDF.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
The other thing I really liked, the opening, first of all, it didn't have an intro,
yeah.
Right? There was no intro that we had that didn't make sense that we had to listen to.
But it built tension well.
Yes, it built tension well, and even though the beginning of the intro track was slower in build-up, to me, call me crazy, but singing in that register with that kind of arrangement going on, it almost sparked a little Queensryche for me. Yeah. Not that his vocals are like as well-rounded as Jeff Tate's, but the cadences and some of that register just kind of gave me like a Silent Lucidity vibe very lightly. And I appreciated that, Miss Katie's.
I like the fact that his more baritone register, the way his intonation goes, it's very goth rockish, especially when he sings. It definitely reminds you of like bands like Sisters of Mercy,
The Cults,
The
Cure,
Bauhaus,
Typo Negative for sure.
Typo Negative all over the place. And a lot of this really kind of harks that balance, but there are songs on here that really kind of go more towards goth rock, which I thought were really interesting. Ending Days, Hope Dies Young, and Ghosts in particular definitely have huge nods to goth rock. Especially Ghosts. Ghosts sounds like a really heavy Sisters of Mercy song.
And tracks like Forsaken had some really cool keys and synths in it. What I definitely liked about this album was the fact that they made great use to develop atmosphere, and it didn't come across overdone or cheesy when they would lay on the synths and stuff.
And it was cool how they kind of broke it up. Like, it wasn't always the same synth sound. Sometimes it was a clean piano. Sometimes they brought in strings, which the strings came across as just as sorrowful as you need them to sound on a Death Doom album, because, man, this is a lot of bummer music.
Weepy, weepy, weepy.
But it's excellent. And I have to say the choruses really ring out on all these. And the subject matter, while it is dark, foreboding, morose, choose your adjective, there is something that is just so sublimely catchy about it.
Another thing that I noticed about this album, and I kind of came to the conclusion, obviously, at the end once I gave the whole thing a listen, is this album does an incredibly well job, to my ears, of blending melodic parts, while still heavy, those hooks, you know, those chorusy type hooks, which I feel like are a little bit different than melodic parts. Yes, hooks are generally melodic, but hooks are designed to really kind of pull you in and grab you. I think they did a really good job of mixing melody, hooks, and heaviness with all the different stuff, like you said, with different synth sounds, with different guitar tones, with different vocal lines and cadences. This album had a great variety to it, and this was a really enjoyable listen to me on a lot of different levels.
The Devil Embraced was another one that I really thought was cool. This one kind of flipped the dynamic of having the big clean chorus. It was like, no, fuck that. We have some clean verses, very somber, very dirge-like, and then a big growled chorus that was just reeking of death doom.
Meaty.
And towards the end of the album, you really get some giant chunks of their old death doom sound.
One of my favorite tracks in this whole thing is, I believe it's pronounced Ravengast.
I think that's right.
It has this really heavy, slow tempo, just fucking chug, and then it kicks right into fucking melodic goth choruses. I think this song is a perfect blend of all those things that I touched base on previously, and this is just a fucking banger of a track, man. I fucking love this one.
The riff reeks of Sabbath. Like, it is a very Tony Iommi sort of riff. I absolutely dug it. And the bonus tracks were really good, too. And I liked how this album kind of ended more on the death doom note. Here in the Night and Defiler both have particularly good heaviness to them, and more laboring the harsh vocals, because Ending Days and Hope Dies Young were definitely more on the clean side. And it was good. It was good how they paced the album. They didn't want to labor one style too much, whether they're going to try to blend it a little bit more, or like, no, we need a flat-out heavy doom metal song here. Or
the back half kind of reminded me more of like the 90s Paradise Lost.
And 90s Paradise Lost is fucking fantastic if you've never jammed it.
Killer.
But within their last, I'd say, 4 or 5 albums, they've done an incredible job of just pretty much going through a lot of their career and finding this really cool uniform sound where they can sort of blend all these elements well. And this pretty much continues the trend. This is another solid offering from them. While I don't like it as much as Medusa, because I think Medusa was a benchmark album in my mind, and I love the gritty heaviness, this is a really cool album in the sense that they did a lot of different stuff and they didn't try to repeat what they did on Medusa. So this is a fresh take, and overall I'm going to give this 4 stars. This was a solid listen. Granted, depressing as fuck, but that's Paradise Lost. Lots of hooks, love the vocal melodies, love all the melodies on here. It just really just encapsulates that entire doomy feel.
I also gotta say that I had pretty much zero complaints about this album. First of all, Paradise Lost is, in my mind, incredibly underrated.
Yes.
I think it's criminal how many people have no fucking idea who they even are. Even in the metal community,
Yeah.
you know? Like, they're just too fucking talented for more people to not know about them. So if you've never heard of them before, please, I encourage you to go check them out and at least give them a chance. Going back to the album, the one thing that I wish there was a little more of, there was a couple solos on there, right? And it was kind of like some cool wah-drenched, pentatonic type, blues kind of solos and stuff, and it worked well. However, when it comes to that gothic rock style, I think of, to me, and it's totally biased. I'm a gigantic Typo Negative fan. I've stated that 100 times. To
Man
me,
Crush,
all that. I love Peter and Kenny Hickey too. I adore Kenny Hickey. And the cool thing about Kenny Hickey is he writes. He has done solos, right? And like I Don't Want to Be Me, and so like the more traditional kind of like just rock solos. But what he's fucking phenomenal at is stuff like Love You to Death, Be My Druidess, My Girlfriend's Girlfriend. It's lead lines, but they just fucking take everything underneath it and enhance it. It creates its own magical part of the song. So there were certain parts on that album where I was almost in my mind thinking I was going to hear some kind of like amazing fucking, kind of melody. I wish that would have happened maybe once or twice on this album. Otherwise, there's really zero complaints that I have, and that's such a minimal fucking complaint anyway. It's just a, preference of taste, really. So I also give this album a 4 out of 5. And once again, if you've never heard of Paradise Lost, do yourself a favor, man, and at least give them a chance, because they're a super fucking talented group of guys.
You have 16 albums to go through, and trust me, like 90% of it is just fucking fantastic. So, if you like the review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do shit like this all the time. Thank you guys for watching.